This should be fun. So just a heads up, I'm gonna swear a lot in this video. Like some fun swears and some not so fun swears. I won't be wild about saying all of them, but I will try to say as many as I can because I have a point to make. So fuck it, let's start. I don't know about you, but a good part of my education in the Bard has been getting me to appreciate how dirty he was. Not just the usual sorts of insults, like,
"Why, thou clay-brained guts, thou knotty-pated fool, thou whoreson and obscene, greasy tallow cat, man!"
I know plenty of schools have used the Shakespeare insult generator. Thou frothy, sheep-biting hugger-mugger. And those are fun. And hell, the epic rap battles guys used it. But I was also taught Shakespeare via his hilariously layered, dense innuendo. I'll never forget being 11 years old, reading A Midsummer Night's Dream, and finding this speech. "A sometime lurk I in a gossip's bowl, in very likeness of a roasted crab, and when she drinks against her lips I bob, and on her withered dewlap pour the ale." And then of course there's The Taming of the Shrew. I'll let Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton handle this one.
"Come, come, you wasp, i' faith you are too angry."
"If I be waspish, best beware my sting."
"My remedy then is to pluck it out."
"Aye, if the fool could find where it lies."
"Who knows not where a wasp doth wear his sting? In his tail."
"In his tongue."
"Whose tongue?"
"Yours, if you talk of tails, and so farewell."
"What with my tongue in your tail?"
No translation needed. And just to be clear, these dirty jokes don't just show up in comedies or romances, or even as jokes. Like that weird line in Macbeth where Lady Macbeth tells her husband to
"Screw your courage to the sticking place."
That makes a bit more sense in context. And even in his histories, in Henry V, King Henry is gifted a treasure chest from the French ambassador, filled with
tennis balls, my liege.
And Henry immediately rebuts with,
"When we have matched our rackets to these balls, we will in France, by God's grace, play a set. Shall strike his father's crown into the hazard."
Yeah, the King of England just threatened the King of France with a whack to the nards. So if you're in high school and you're an adolescent and you're just now getting used to the idea of swearing, it makes sense to play up Shakespeare's insult game, which is considerable. I mean...
"Thou hast undone our mother."
"Villain, I have done thy mother."
And on the flip side, if you're an academic trying to convince adults of Shakespeare's brilliance, it makes sense that you would downplay the innuendo in favor of the startling insights into human character and yada yada yada. But intersect the two. What's the academic value of looking at a dirty joke? Well, if you're looking at the way a language evolves over time, dirty jokes are a great way to do that. Here's why. If you're a human, and you use language, and you have a very, very, very strong feeling that you have to put into words because you need other humans to share your feeling, often you don't feel like you can do that just by adding a few dozen more veries in front of your emotion adjective. So, you use language to express your feeling with words as fresh and as weighty as the feeling itself. You're not just sad, you're so sad. Or you use words to show that there aren't any. No words. Ugh, I'm done. I can't even say how I feel. Or it's shorthand, I can't even. Or you start punching it up. I feel like crap. I feel like shit. I feel like dog shit. Today was a dumpster fire. Or you give in to the feeling and try to make it as beautiful as possible. And that's where poetry comes in. You can't say, my heart is aching, because everyone's heart aches. Your heartache feels so much more real, visceral. You feel it in your body. Crawling in my skin, these wounds, they will not heal. No. Not like the sadness I feel is in my body, but it needs to be bigger. I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills, till a landslide brought me down. Oh, that's better. Self-image feeling washed away. But when the melancholy fit shall fall, sudden from heaven, like a weeping cloud. Yes, my sadness feels like bad weather, but felt in my body. Oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. There. That is my sadness. Linguist John McWhorter described this poetic escalation as the expressiveness cycle, the need to accentuate superlatives when older ones have worn down. Think of how the word terrible feels so weak next to words like hellish or fucked up. And this is especially true when you really, really want to hurt someone's feelings. Because nothing feels more pathetic than when you get insulted and your only comeback is, shut up! Oh, no. It has to hit. And it has to hit hard. You asshole. You son of a bitch. You motherfucker. But even those have become tame. Seriously, when's the last time you used motherfucker to talk about someone who actually fucks their mother? And so we get pretty surreal ones. Asshat, douche canoe, shitlord, shitbird, shit goblin, cockbite, fuck ass, nerf herder, cuck. Have we reached the point where cuck has become meaningless? Because we really need to reach that point. Now, just as much as we need to escalate, there's also a counter need to de-escalate. Because even worse than a lame insult is an insult that makes you look worse than the person being insulted. Everything I said before, I could probably get away with. But if I used an insult like the one spelled F-A and then a third letter, I would be over. I would be cancelled. I would cancel myself if I ever used language like that. Because it does too much harm. Too many people have had their lives threatened or even ended with the power of that word. If I were to use it, I would essentially be excusing myself from polite society. I mean, it says plenty about how far attitudes towards gay rights have come that that word has been entirely replaced with cuck as the go-to insult for someone's perceived lack of masculinity. I mean, cuck has a lot of problems with it too, and I wish more people knew about those problems. And if you're watching this video at a time when cuck has been entirely stigmatized, good? Linguist and cognitive psychologist Steven Pinker coined the phrase euphemism treadmill to show this opposing force, to retain a sense of politic and neutrality when discussing sensitive topics. A classic example being the R word, and the many euphemisms people use to try to replace it, each of which, in turn, have become taboo themselves. And that same push and pull is also true for sexual innuendo. Push and pull. Whenever you're joking about sex, get too clinical, the joke dies in fire. Get too explicit, the joke dies in frost. I am good at metaphors. You're trying to suggest without being explicit, hint without exposing, and also without diminishing what you're actually alluding to. It's like, how does that one Patton Oswalt bit go?
What is worse, like, I want to fuck your wet pussy, or I'm gonna fill your hoo-ha with goof juice? Which, right there, that's totally G-rated.
So with any joke, insult, or innuendo, it is always a social act which either assimilates or alienates. It draws the boundaries of social groups by marking behavior as either acceptable or mockable. So it's not just that a joke can become stale and overused, it's that a joke has to accommodate new stigmas, biases, and new social norms. It's how they keep being funny. So if you're writing for a very culture-savvy audience who want to see their own feelings expressed in words that cut but not too deeply, writing a good joke is amazingly hard. You're aiming for the bullseye of a target in constant motion. But in looking at the history of popular entertainment, you can start to track the movement of that target. So in something like the works of William Shakespeare, or really any work of fiction ever made, you have these frozen moments of language where you can still savor the sting of a phrase like son and heir of a mongrel bitch, before it got diluted down into son of a bitch. Or savor the shade of a sentence like, I do desire we may become better strangers. Or have everyone know exactly what you mean when you say, country matters. And sure, you may personally not find it funny, and trust me, you're not alone.
That is for every schoolboy and schoolgirl for the next 400 years. Hours spent at school desks, trying to find one joke in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Should I do Blackadder next year? I don't know. But if you've ever tried telling a joke to a live audience, or a YouTube audience, or even just to your own friends, you know that seeing what lands and what bombs is always surprising. Funny, ain't it?
This sanguine coward, this horseback breaker, this huge hill of flesh.
You starveling, you elf-skin, you dried neat's tongue, you stockfish. Oh, for breath to utter what is like to thee, a tailor's yardstick, you sheath, you bowcase, you vile, standing tongue.